Hello and welcome to session 8 of Year 5 History with me, Mrs. Furby. We are really getting through our Anglo-Saxons and Vikings work now, and we've only got a couple of sessions left. So this session you are going to be learning about historical causes and consequences. So we're going to talk about what that means but in a minute. But last session, if you didn't do it, it's worth going back and doing that first, because it's all about Alfred the Great and you're going to need to know that to help you today. So as always, all you need is a pen, paper, or pencil, whatever you've got. Absolutely fine. First off, we're going to have a little bit of fun. So Anglo-Saxons had different language to us. They had different, lots of different languages and lots of different ways of writing these down. And these are called runes. So there are lots of different rune languages. This is just one example of them. So I thought you could pause the screen, have a bit of fun, write your name in runes, or write a message in runes, or draw a picture in runes. They're quite cool to draw. And when you've done that and done some little artwork, unpause the screen and we'll carry on. So just before I pause, I'm just going to have a go at my name over here. Where's my pen? I'm not actually drawing mine. Let's do Furby over here. So F would look like, where am I? Oh, I'm over there. I don't want to be over there. I want to be over here. B. Oh, need to work on that one. Yeah. Oh, R looks like R now. So does B. Oh, Y. Oh, that's tricky. Nice. There you go. Right. Pause the screen. Have a go. Unpause when you're done. Okay, let's move on to the serious stuff this morning. So we're going to do a vocabulary check from our learning objective. The first word I want to go through is cause. So cause is an action or something that you do, or a decision that sets off lots of other things. So it could be that you decide to go for a walk. You decide that you want to start a business, or you decide that you want to adopt an animal, or make a new friend, or something like that. And it sets off a series of other reactions. A consequence is what happens when a decision is made, or when something happens. Normally, when we think about consequences, we think of them as bad things. So, for example, if you're told you play football outside and you kick the ball and it hits somebody, the consequence is that you hit somebody and that's bad. Or it might be that the consequence is the punishment, or the way that you're dealt with after you've done something you shouldn't do. But consequences can be good as well. Could be either way. So it's consequence is a way of saying something that is a result of an action that's come before. So where were we? Alfred had just become king and was in trouble with the Vikings, who were attacking the Saxons and losing. After a year of battles, Alfred gave in and he paid the Viking army not to attack Wessex again. So he gave the Vikings a load of money and said, leave us alone. But that didn't last. In 876, a Danish Viking leader called Guthrum led another attack on Wessex. Alfred managed to drive them away, but less than 2 years later, he launched a surprise attack and came back to Alfred's camp, who were relaxed as they were celebrating Christmas. Many people were killed during that time, during this battle, and Alfred only just escaped, and he had to go into hiding. We call this the turn of the tide. Alfred then spent a few months hiding out in the marshes, so hiding out in fields and hiding out away with only a few followers, so he lost most of his army. But he worked really hard to get people to believe in him again, because they weren't sure and the Vikings had taken over. In May, he was ready to take on the Vikings again, and this time he won. And he agreed peace terms with Guthrum, because Guthrum knew that he'd kill him, that Alfred would kill him otherwise. And part of that was that Guthrum and his Vikings had to convert to Christianity. Alfred had to accept that Guthrum wasn't going to leave, and they would just end up keep fighting. So instead of fighting and sending him away and then him coming back and attacking again, Alfred agreed that the Vikings could settle to the east, and they had the first Saxon-Viking border. So the Vikings had some land, the Saxons had the rest of the land, and they would live separately. Alfred was the very first Saxon king to negotiate with the Vikings and try to live with them peacefully. No one had done this up to this point, which is why the raids have been so brutal. So Alfred was different. He was also known as Alfred the Strong. So Alfred the Grey, Alfred the Strong. Alfred knew that peace wouldn't last with the Vikings. So even though they'd made peace and they had their separate lands, he knew this wasn't going to last forever, and it would only take a new set of Vikings to come and it wouldn't count. So while there was peace and while they were living in their separate lands, he organised his army and to a better fighting unit. He built lots of ships and created defences around all of the towns. And you can still see the walls around some of the towns today. This worked. The Wessex withstood all future Viking attacks. They didn't lose another one. And he even claimed back the land the Vikings had taken. Other Saxon leaders started looking to Alfred, and that's when he became known as Alfred the Great. So, your task for today is, did he make the right choice? Okay, so I want you to think about this. Paying the Vikings not to attack Wessex again. Was this a good choice? A bad choice? And what were the possible problems and consequences from this? Have a think about it, pause the screen. So it could be that in this one, positives, could be something simple as, where's my pen? There I am. No more fighting. Negatives, lose money and have given in. Possible problems, Vikings could come back. And Vikings know Alfred has money to steal. So see if you can think of your own one and pause the screen when you're done. Same for this one, going into hiding after he was defeated by Guthrum. Positives, negatives, possible problems and consequences. So positives for me, he was alive. Basically, he kept his life. Negatives, lost his kingdom to the Vikings. People stopped believing in him. So they stopped following him and they stopped believing and supporting him. But this one, pause the last one obviously and then unpause. Making peace with the Vikings and allowing them to have their own land to settle in. It's positives. For me, it stopped the fighting. And it gave Alfred time to get stronger. He built his armies, he built walls, he built ships so that he could take on the Vikings. Negatives, he had given in to the invaders. Other leaders would see him as weak. So shows weakness maybe. Does it? I'm not sure. What else? Lost land, which means the consequence of that is there's less land to grow food on, which is obviously important for people. So have a think about that and unpause when you're done. Okay, so I had to think quite hard today. You had to think really carefully about what Alfred was doing and the choices he would make. So you've learned that there are different ways to respond to situations, and that some Saxon kings responded by violence, and others, like Alfred, negotiated or paid people off, even though he had won battles in the past. You've learned that actions have consequences, and there are often choices to be made. And that Alfred often decided to negotiate and use other tactics when he didn't think he could win. He knew there was no point going into a battle that he couldn't win. Well done for your hard work today. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.